Why words now? Peter Wächtler. 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 Why words now? Peter Wächtler.
Hello, welcome to Why Works Now. My name is Simon Dybbroe Møller. Quite some years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I think, I was trying to remember before, I went with a friend of mine to see a reading or a talk of Peter Wächtler at Copenhagen in Berlin. And at that point I had only seen bits of his work and I didn't really get it yet. And I'm not sure that I get it now either, but I was just not sure what it was at all at that point. It was a commission talk, and the subject was his friend, artist Hans Christian Lotz. The friend with whom I went was a fan of Peter's already, and she was excited. That was very obvious. And the talk was good, very good, of course. But what really struck me was how generous it was and driven. It felt free, or struggling to be free, and really real. And getting to know Peter's writing and work probably later, this is still what amazes me. His work and writing shimmers with curiosity. Peter Wächtler currently has this great show up at my favorite Copenhagen exhibition space, Simeon. Go see it. This is Why Works Now, Peter Wächtler. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Something is always hindering me a little bit. Thank you for coming. This is a very new text. I finished it today, and I wrote it. Before I wrote it, it was meant to be the first chapter of a book that I will publish with Simeon. Marcus is here somewhere, and I'm not so sure about this anymore. But if it might go into this book. And somehow, I just finished it. It has a working title which is called For the Last Time. For the Last Time, Part 1, Reflection. But sometimes I ask that new barista with a grey-dyed fringe to prepare a coffee for myself, and I sit down near the big window during my break, pretending for 15 minutes or so that I wasn't part of this place, but would be visiting all this as a sphere foreign and touristic to me, feeling joyfully indifferent to the decayed high piles of subcultural misery reeking from the slow disintegration of generational and personal ambition. Instead, during my working break, I let the fact that it is actually still a nice place to hang out temporarily and a little shyly crawl on top of my inner reasoning. On top of my flat white, a small round pond held in shades of calming ochre tones that shows the drawing of a milk-white swan with 2 heart-shaped wings. This swan is very beautiful. But before I go further into the fantasy part of all this, for the sake of transparency, I need to confess that I started to talk to myself loudly and openly. For the kind of talking I took to, for reasons that should be discussed later on but probably won't, I tend to use a very raspy, very manly murmur, very not like my high-pitched, squeaky, nasal oink-oink voice, as G has called it once. And although I speak aloud, I put in as much far away, as much distance as possible, aiming for a kind of cold mountaintop tone and I buried them all mood, as deeply comforting for me as out of reach in real life. By now I think of my murmuring as a small treat, as a well-deserved pause from my own persona. And let me add that much for even more transparency, a persona that I came to doubt and detest. A persona I drag along like a bag of wet plaster, drag it along through a troublesome and deeply needed inner transformation, longing to dump that dead weight from the next bridge that is oh so necessary process will hopefully put in my path very soon to make me finally cross the dark river. For example, when I slowly look up after a minute gazing at the swan with his heart-shaped wings, I would look over at the barista and would, with my cracked up lips hardly moving, my unshaved chin kept in place and my squinted gaze on something beyond all of this, I would exhale a slow, "I love you, bro." A simple gesture of gratitude which barista fails to see as he is assembling a massive tray with an array of foam-dripped, pressed ice chide dripped over in cold-brewed refreshments for folks to drain and forget about, ignorant of any swan there might be, like, fuck those tacky foamy scribblings, totally standard, get a grip, you hack. I fear that my time is over, as I fear that barista has put those drinks on that tray for me to distribute them, to deliver, the skills I promised, and that I will be paid for in golden coins with a good emperor's portrait still embossed on its lucky side, as if he hadn't died at all when the empire fell. Yes, I will be paid, and yes, I am technically still a full member of this cooperatively run cafe, just as it says in the contract I signed long ago in a snowbound night when G and I met after one of the very few rehearsal sessions for our short-lived band project, The Sickness. While remembering the fluffy snowflakes that night and how much more binding a contract signed during snowfall should be, I mumbled towards the tray, "I'm not ready yet." Meaning, I'm not ready to take up the tray and circle my serving rounds round and round and round and round the low marble bistro tables that used to be timeless classics somewhere in a country that by now has been bombed to ruins before flooded 4 times with the fallout rain of greed and excess heavy on those few folks left floating on their floater on an empty sea of poison and passé and nevermore. Sorry, let me go again. I'm not ready to take up the tray and circle my serving rounds round and round and round and round and round the low marble bistro tables that we especially ordered in Austria, Vienna in fact, and that we picked up together with a then still affordable pack of tonnet chairs on whose by now softly creaking leathery leather I am sitting on right now. We picked those up with a groundbreaking newbie feeling to drive a truck, only available to those hungry-hearted freaks, with an uncracked feeling for roads and horizons, not burned out yet by the endless hauling of gear to follow and the grinding logistics of life, business, love. So yes, we did drive up or down to Austria with our long hairs blowing in the wind and the start of our community cafe on our minds with free social counseling, cooking courses and fucking pottery lessons already deep in the planning. Affordable pottery lessons for clumsy beginners and geniuses of the wheel on the menu. The stones, the sandings, the sticks, the stuff, the trucks, the orders, the letters, the mails, all of this involved at some point incredible poof. Sunlight streaks through the clouds, streaks through the window to illuminate up the lime green laminated letters of our cooperative project's name. I still can't bring myself to utter this name here, as it is clearly cursed. I sigh. Dear Lord of former ecstasy, let me sit here by the window on my creaking tonnet chair for a little bit longer. Let me resist the strong pull of that tray, the pull to serve and to please. I broke my smiling bone for today and can't go on and meet my duties, my cups, my clients. Pass on those drinks to be served by those coming after me and the eagerness to keep on trucking. Let me stay here in this snowfall with my heart-shaped wings and let that snow cover me until only my orange beak gives those who knew me a hint, a reminder of what I was, of that I was. A white swan, utterly repressed in this snowfall, flake after flake, word after word of contracts shredded into meaninglessness, snow down on me until I doze off to never, never land, loudly snoring. But the barista won't have it, won't have me snoring open-eyed during our shared shift with my morning break already almost doubled. He utters rhythmical curses. He eagerly, with his spidery fingers, draws a magical circle first about his watch, then faster over the cups and glasses of the metal of the tray while frowning at me, his shaved brow pierced by a magical silver ring, its end sealed with a metal ball whose powerful sheen is luckily hindered by a thin layer of matting skin and party grease. I do feel the pull, though. The witchcraft of the service industry can only be answered with one difficult but very effective counterspell that I write into the cafe's morning air with my right index finger. May I have the bill, please? As to be expected, the barista's face changes into a confused, downright panicking grimace. He is crushed, defeated, broken, grasps for his heart, tries to steady himself, wiping 2 stacks of Italian bistro glasses right into the compost, which makes their fall weirdly silent. But a mighty and worthy opponent he is. By mere force, his physical shell manages to pick up the tray, and although heavily staggering and stumbling, moaning loudly at times, once even howling, he is going about serving all those other guests who, the lot of them, really do not deserve any further description. Just imagine them as a bunch of gray, faceless bodies robbed from any purpose and meaning already long ago. After this risky round, the barista is dragging himself back to the counter, trying to reach the machine. In despair, both his hands are clasping the portafilter. He rips it out of the machine's underbelly to empty it with 3 heavy magical blows against the worn-out edge of the wooden box in which the dead coffee lives. Just in time. I see him regaining his powers. He straightens up, stretching his shoulders, refilling the portafilter with freshly ground coffee at the mill. The mill starts milling, grinding. The sound of erasure fills the cafe, the shredding of what went before, and soon after, the resetting promise of a new cup is in the air. Just like yesterday, this grinding sound wipes the barista memory out entirely, or at least his memory for the last few days. With the mill still going, he turns around, confused as if just landed, smiling, gesturing, if I would like a coffee. A simple thumbs up from my side will do in this case. All this buys me some more time. Time to sit here by the window, time to look at the rays of light, time to drag my bag of plaster somewhere else, step by step, day by day, a little closer to that river. But alas, then conjured by 3 even heavier blows of the portafilter against the wooden box, with a more doomed, hopeless rhythm to them, I see G approaching the cafe. There he blows. Owner of it all style, a long open cashmere coat over an asphalt grey blazer, no collar, but a black t-shirt underneath, a mauve-colored sweatshirt, with this an annoyingly loose and very long homemade style scarf in bright colors and a cozy pillow-sized belly for general approachability. Countercursed by his boar-like looks and the phone in his hand, denying any access should any of those losers should dare to pipe up. Beggars, all of them. His mood seems to be good, good as any boss mood on a relaxed morning, checking in on his project, checking in fucking unannounced on his baristas, sandwiches, croissants, hygiene, Portuguese puddings, and left behind fake waiters, which is me. Enter the friend boss, with his goatee freshly groomed, and his thinning ponytail man bummed high up on his crown, his cheeks rosy with entrepreneurship, red wine, and real lives. He stops to send out a message he has been typing in his stride, which pops up on my phone. Dear all, reminder, mediated co-op meeting 5 o'clock at Cafe Religious Society. Last attempt and mandatory for members, G. He pushes the woolen, insulating winter curtain aside. Slowly I suck down that swan. Suck down its foamy nest as if I was a drain of milky dreams down at the bottom of a caked sink reserved for flat voids gone cold. In preparation of the assault, I close my eyes, gathering my forces. Oh, hey, silence. Must have misread the plan, thought you were working today? Question mark, silence, question mark, bold question mark. I open my eyes. Then barista, who, still a little shook up and empty-eyed, shortens his waiting for to be greeted by this joke of a patron with a casual, "Coffee, G." "Oh, hey, barista, how is it going? You all alone today?" Barista nods, smiling confidently. Whatever it is, he can do it all by himself, forever aiming for a heartfelt smile that somehow slides off. All alone, I think. No. Cool, says G, and makes a sign for cappuccino, which looks like you would cup a tennis ball with your hand. G turns to me. "I see you tonight?" I close my eyes. "Hey, see, it's mandatory." Eyes still closed, I murmur. Mandatory. "Are you sick again?" Rising from a well-known place is all the stuff I say every time when I meet G. That I am technically a co-founder of the cooperative back then when it still deserved a name, and that therefore I will not accept any orders from my fellow comrades, alive, dead, or brainwashed. The fact that I did not involve worldly authorities yet is owed to the shriveling soft spot for the old times when he and I were trucking down all those roads. But as of now, I am about to change my life, my ways, and my job very, very soon now, and he'll be out of all those things then. But instead of this, I say, keep hydrated. For now, this works as barista brings the cappuccino, and G, somewhat distracted, says to barista, "Could I have a glass of water with this, thanks?" What a kind boss. Barista prances back to the long wooden counter. I trace his excited magical shadow flickering over the clean copper taps for the beers, glistening in the light. See it mingle with a fractured sparkle that ascends from the bassin of yet clean dishwater. See it slide through the counter's inlays of stainless steel that maturely glimmer the morning light back to the world, calm and deeply satisfied to be on the money-making side of this polished counter. This counter, I spare you the details of its old world origins, is so beautiful. It makes me wish I would still drink. I feel the pull though. Barista starts the mill again and G's memory is wiped clean while staring at his phone saying, But then reading his own message and kind of guessing a possible previous response of mine, he says, "Look, it isn't easy for me either, okay? Facing all this, I mean." Scrolling, silence, incoming message, more scrolling. "But I knew I could count on you. A will come too. She's on her way from, I don't know, exclamation mark. Have you met that guy T? I think he's good for her." Scrolling, some typing. He downs his cappuccino to free up his hand for the water glass brought to him by barista, whom I kindly remind of my last order. "Sure, I'll wait." "Sorry, sure." Double question mark, incoming message too. G looks up from his phone, piercing him with a look of, "I'm absolutely not understanding this right now. Did you forget an order?" But then is summoned to continue scrolling. Barista recalls to bring my coffee. G briefly puts his hands on my shoulder. I flinch from the searing, throbbing pain this causes me. "Hey, okay, it will be fine. The mediator is a great guy." "Okay, gotta go. See you tonight. Let me know when you want to work here again." He leaves, aftershave remains. Barista, visibly relieved, puts a new cup in front of me. Sorry again, he says. Not at all. It's been a very busy morning for you. Yes, very, kind of. You're lucky. You no longer work here. I lift my cup and raise my pinky for an extra noble drinking posture. And before having a deep sip from the hot and freshly brewed coffee, I say, I'm very lucky. And then there goes that grinding mill again. That's the first part. I need a small break. It's no. 2. Mediation. I look at the Bluetooth boombox, a pill-shaped black thing of evil foreboding, armored in a metal mesh, waiting on the table next to the mediator, who brought it from a dark place where sound has to be boomboxed. The mediator beams at me as if preparing the stage for the theater's janitor, like, maybe you want to give it a try too? He silences everybody else by putting his spell finger across his lips, which makes the noise cease immediately and all lips are zipped tight. I sigh and say, okay, so I am technically a co-founder of but the master spell wasn't strong enough. The word co-founder did unlock the rage within my fellow cooperative members, made them fire up anew and at once. But the mediator seems to be very accustomed with handling people screaming at each other. Very fluidly, he makes use of the members' nicknames that we all had to write down before the few rounds of pathetic and self-important speeches of self-pity and other blaming. For example, he would call C with her nickname Tinky to remind everybody of old bonds when the mob was openly threatening to sell her house to even out cash flow. And if somebody would lash out, he would call he or she with their real and full name, reintroducing respect in a formal atmosphere to the meeting. My name, of course, isn't really Shitface. Actually, I did disarm this hurtful name already 5 years back when I broke free from any imaginative and real hate speech from others by the help of my therapist. Equally important was my personal therapeutic ritual through which I finally managed to destroy the dark mirror that endlessly stored my hopeless and desperate reflections, making it crack and burst into numerous shards by burning a blend of hometown barley and a toss of ashwagandha pills neatly crumbled inside a tear-stained page of diary while wet shaving my head on my birthday at 12:56 a.m. sharp. But possibly the ritual's effect wore out a little since then, as the corpse are able to use that nickname without the spasms and immediate liver pain that I conceived for those using it ever again. It seems that this nickname, rooting from a very short period, a tiny, forgettable patch of time really, of irresponsible drinking on my behalf, is clear to be hurting me again, almost more than it did before the dark mirror found its end. Someone called the Hump pops up from his chair, screaming something about to have a look around at all of us shabby fuck-ups that have been played over and over again because all of us, in my humble opinion, end quote, were actually bred for the single purpose to be fucked over. He adds that he did not come here to listen to Shitface, the psychopath, pointing his clearly non-magical stubby the Hump finger directly at me. The mediator directs him back on his chair by lowering his other hand down in a smooth movement before positioning himself in what is, according to my calculations, the exact middle of the circle. Guys. Before we go on, thank you for your input, Hump. But allow me to differ. Because no, I do not see a bunch of washed up losers that have been betting on the wrong horse, no. Let me tell you what I see. I see experienced decision makers, explorers of expertise, skilled craftsmen and women, all of them down-to-earth dreamers, that are keeping it real, day by day. Of course, even I, a mere stranger, I also see that the weight of success has been divided unevenly on you guys' shoulders. I see those of you burdened by responsibility and cash, asking themselves how to tackle the next phase of even higher up. I see those troubled and still searching, still out there hunting with a pack, restless, still eager to put right what might not have gone down so well so far. He pauses. Is he looking at me? You know what I see when I look at all of you? His gaze circles a magical circle of folding chairs. Incoming message, squeaking of nervous sneakers on linoleum. I see a team. Silence, snorting. I know, call me crazy, call me wild, but I do. I see a team that despite years of conflict and misunderstanding managed to establish 4 very successful cafes, bustling with customers and coffee connoisseurs right there in the heart of this fucking capital. Murmur, someone says. Okay. I do see a team that carefully, thoughtfully planted this once bean-sized project that grew and grew and is by now monstrously branching out, aiming not only for national but international distribution of their own brand of roasted coffee and coffee-related products. More murmur, restless movements, share sounds. Call me out of this world. But I do see a team that once set out together to face that beast of the alternatively themed cafe and lunch spot market. And once they met this powerful creature, they, as a team, shot it right in the fucking head. He makes a music video-related gesture of repetitively shooting a body already dead on the ground, preferably asphalt. Question mark? Question mark? Someone shouts, yeah, we killed it. Brief, arrhythmic clapping, silence. Guys, today, I brought you something. He bends down to pick up something up from underneath the table he is leaning to. It's a metal bucket. Today, we cut up that beast that you have slain, and I invite you to have a closer look at its still warm and pulsing intestines with me. I invite you to read the future from those organs, as the ancient, the pagan way tells us to do it. He holds up the bucket. Somebody cheering as if in a concert. Guys, not even I know what we will find and what that future might look like. But I will promise you that much. At the bottom of this bucket, we will find back that team of outstanding greatness that we are. Still are. People stand up cheering, a chair topples over, shouts of, cut that fucking beast up. More whistles, sharper. Incoming message drowned out by applause and cheering. He makes calming gestures by a slow, parallel downward pedal of his hand, silence again. But before we come back to that bucket, I want to know more about you. You see, we are all stuck up here sometimes. Day in, day out. He thrusts his index finger against his temple 5 times. Then he relaxes, smiles, and lightly draws a zigzag line over his dark, slicked-back hair, shimmering like a raven. So let's crack this up. Everybody claps again. That kind of, right, let's get to work way, and a bearded guy rolls up his sleeve. The idea then is that everybody will have equal speaking time, but will speak for somebody else of the circle, choosing, and by that allowing a different perspective on the history of our co-op. As I was interrupted by the hump, the mediator assigns me to continue with a quick switch from index finger pointing to thumbs up. Murmur, shouts of, boo, shh, guys. Let him speak, we all agreed to this, didn't we, Tinky? Tinky calms down, silently nods, impressed by her own ability to be reasonable and to cooperate, that the mediator mined out of her. So let's say face instead of shit face, okay? So face, what would you like G to say to us? What would you like him to say to you, especially in order for you to feel recognized? G has installed himself right ahead on a throne of a folding chair, his arm crossed, his face friendly and prepared for anything that would come, as he, after all, initiated this meeting. His head is cocked, I clear my throat. Co-op members, dudes and rivals, I am sorry. I am sorry for renting out the pottery workshop for startup events that breed evil. I am sorry I scrapped the language course and put the teacher's salary into ETFs when this was still a thing. I made money to buy you out one by one, making you think we are going down, making you believe I was saving the project with some scraped heritage money of mine. I am sorry, the neighborhood bakery croissants are industrial products and come with a ton of plastic each. I am sorry, I replaced the tonnet chairs with cheap replicas, and I put the originals in my luxurious home where I patchwork it out with your ex-partners and your unborn children. At this point, I was interrupted by G's open laughter that he powerfully released, throwing his head back, chuckling, clapping his hands in a lame, sarcastic manner. Where do you get this stuff from? That's great, but it's a serious meeting, an offer to get going, you know? You know, best of all, I'm not finished, I say. The mediator, all earnest and not bored at all, quarter singles his index finger, engages me to speak on. G, I can forgive you a lot of these things, and I'm seriously willing to, but I cannot forgive you. Hear me out, that you, here I stand up, that you locked me up in the cage of thieves, which is still in full operation as we speak, and therefore makes it impossible for me to cross the dark river that borders these lands of co-op misery from a bright future beyond. Silence. Question marks. Then again, not so many. Might have been a too heavy blow for those not in the know. But I was provoked. The hump looks very confused. A man called N whispered to his neighbor, a pale, skinny dude called Pale H. Sorry, what cage? I breathe in and out. It feels good to have it off my chest. G slowly and with both hands rearranges his man bun, then sighs. I'm sorry, but you have to make an effort. I made an effort. I made an offer. What is this? A giggling is heard, then stops. Incoming message. The mediator looks at me, still in this supportive, motivating way. But did I see something move? Did his hands twitch as I mentioned the cage of thieves? Hiding both his hands by crossing his arms, he says, let's give G the opportunity to answer the first part of your comments before we get on to your more subjective interpretations, okay? Sure, I shrug it off. I feel the heat, the thrill and stress of speaking up among others recede. I'm on mountaintop again. G goes, okay, again, about renting the pottery workshop out, it was the only option to restore funds. I was transparent then, but most of you, I'm sorry to say, were too busy taking to give a single fuck about the general well-being of the co-op. And those evil startups were handpicked by our ethical standards. I zoom out. I no longer listen. I can't deal with G's slang of making sense. I have heard it all before, many a times. I look at G explaining himself. I watch T interrupting, the bearded guy standing up, shaking an apron with the co-op's first logo on it, designed by Pale H. The bearded man is explaining something very complicated in response. G keeps his hand parallel, as if gripping bricks and lifting them off sideways. Tinky points at me, then at Pale H. Tinky points at me, then at Pale H. The bearded man has a companion who speaks up, now highly motivated. He has a long reddish beard too. Pale H starts coughing and can't stop. F fills a plastic cup from a Tetra pack of red wine and downs a few pumpernickel coins from a pretty plain and undecorated plastic platter of snacks. A walnut and half a grape are attached to the pumpernickel by a yellowish drop of cream cheese. The mediator is nodding, pointing at people to speak, encourages them to continue or to pause. If the crying gets too heavy, he's there for the participants. He also calms those down that are openly foaming up. The two bearded guys are very red-faced by now and help themselves to the gin, which was just brought in by a very small waiter in a goblin costume. It must be a more folkloristic, traditional leather dress that I somehow failed to place geographically. The leather looks impressively seamless. Now he tries to heave a crate of what looks like gin on the table, a little further away next to the whiteboard, but it turns out he is a little too short for that. Somehow, although he is wearing a loincloth instead of an apron, he has something festive about him. That might come with the effort of disguise and dressing up, but also is enhanced by the seasonal branches of mistletoe that are strapped around his head. Well, it is a special night. The goblin is right. This night is so exceptionally special and so festive that I decide to allow me a tiny, tiny sip of gin to celebrate it, also as a reward for my speaking up so bravely earlier. I leave the circle of chairs and its ongoing discussion to hell with them and their dead beast. Arriving at the table, the goblin is now putting up bottle by bottle onto the paper tablecloth. I realize that I have rarely seen gin being served by the crate. The waiter is swearing, cursing in a language unknown to me. In an attempt of professional solidarity, I say, "Busy evening, no? Always hated to serve big groups, too much. I am a waiter myself, you know." "Oh, the fuck you are!" The waiter fixates me with his beady yellowish eyes, then withdraws with the empty crate shaking his head. I look after him. Christmas must be a stressful time for the mediator and his team. Outside the circle in which I said everything that needed to be said, I was left to my own thoughts and feelings that came rushing back in. I feel so silly and dumb. G is right, the goblin is right, it's all made up. I'm ashamed. Normally, 3 magical blows of my fist against my head do release a bit of tension, but today I seem to need more than that to unwind. While bits of conversation, by now in a pretty reasonable volume, waft over to me from the adults, G just explains that all of the gardening plans for the suburbs were bound to fail from the start. I pour myself a plastic cup of goblin gin. Just to be safe, as I don't feel entirely comfortable with all these ghosty co-op members around, I follow the safety pattern of 3 big gulps, 4 small ones, tap the cup 2 times, then 3 big and fast ones again, then refill to the brim, and so on. The gin, also its label is kept in an ancien regime style that I'm normally drawn to, is unknown to me, and very, very delicious. Its sharp, herbal notes of juniper, red pepper, and yellow leaves on the wet pavement lead me back to the origins of drinking, while the softer notes of orange and hints of creamy clove promise a gentle pick-me-up of a temporarily oblivious, possibly passed-out future. Inside of my body, the first drop of gin evaporates into a friendly mist that slowly descends the winding staircase central to the main dungeon, taking its turn slowly and without haste, confident that it will soon unlock, without key nor spell, the barred doors to those chambers where the fair-headed cherubs of immediacy, intimacy, and truth waiting to be wakened from their clinically depressed slumber. I follow the fog of the goblin gin, listening to the funny echo of my footsteps on the winding staircase. Then up again, I sway this side or that, down a few more pumpernickel coins decorated with lukewarm fish eggs that I interrupt from infesting a piece of tangerine. 3 gulps more to get back to the mountaintop. From high up there, I look down at the corpse with their magical circle. Over at the gathering, nobody pays attention, engaged too deep in a discussion on how to finally be repaid for the progress we enabled within the market. All this interlaced by a flimsy moral ambition to secure a different generational claim on history than making extra legroom a bookable option. Meanwhile, on my mountain, I fall back into murmuring. I feel recognized, fully recognized. But just then, the main door to this church-owned community cafe swings wide open, pushed in by the chilly December winds outside that by now carry, oh Lord, there must be a dream. 6 snowflakes plus a swelling choir of beautiful voices, frosty, yet welcoming, rational but dreamy. 3, 4, 5 goblin waiters come running to close their door again, throwing their small, sturdy figures against it. But before they succeed, swearing and cackling as if she had traveled here by sledge, A enters these forsaken premises. The singing out of nowhere is nice, somehow from a good place, but oopsie, heavy on the heart, so clear and pure, possibly elvish, it fades out elegantly. I wave at A in greeting twice, 3 times. I change my safety drinking pattern to 1 long, slow gulp. Any glass down putting now would be fatal. A brushes the snow of her cashmere coat of a warm light brown tone that goes very well with the golden clasps and buckles of her handbag, whose leather strap she firmly reshoulders while she's simultaneously elbow pressing it to her side, putting both feet together, tensing, bracing herself, seeing the co-op's discussion in full swing. Then, as nobody notices her, she relaxes, opens her coat, checks it out, and hands it to one of the swearing goblin waiters. She wears a crew-necked black woolen sweater underneath, no collar neither, but a simple white crystal. She wears a crew-neck black woolen sweater underneath, no collar neither, but a simple white crystal the size of a pigeon egg dangling from a silver necklace. Dangling from a silver necklace. I don't know what it is. No, wait. She wears a crew-necked black woolen sweater underneath, no collar neither, but a simple white crystal the size of a pigeon egg dangling from a silver necklace. I have seen this crystal before, and admittedly it is still very powerful. And I must retrieve this word from another sunken world. It is very erotic to me. It is very erotic to me, probably caused by the fact that it is clearly dwarf mind from deep, too deep inside of the bitter mountains, which is my brain. The crystal casts beautiful rays of light on me, and yes, I confirm, only on me. A finally walks over to the table, blowing her nose. Retrieving a phone, lets it slide back into her purse. We meet in a kind of COVID hug before she withdraws 3 steps away again. She looks me up and down and says, "So, head tattoos, really?" I laugh like and say that most of them are mere notes or spell tryouts with simple runes. Not all of them are really effective to protect me against evil, ill speech, and misunderstandings, but some do, yes. She nods. Did I miss much? I try to remember. No. How's Switzerland? Luxembourg? Yeah, I thought you were in. I quit 4 years ago. But you were with quit. And also I thought quit. How is Luxembourg then? I'm about to quit. Okay, so how is T? He is great. Silence. Over at the gathering pale age examines the mediator's massive black Bluetooth boombox. Oh God, please stay away from it, pale age. A rolls a cigarette, still using this crappy organic tobacco, still preferring clearly non-smoking context, lights up and exhales a kind of whatever, I'm over this shit since a decade puff of smoke. The mist of goblin gin deep inside of me softly and magically unlocks a heavy oak door with 3-4 locks on it. I smile at her, can't help it. I aim for a casual, take me in your arms and forgive me spell, but I cannot pull it off. Instead of some scheme smile, I feel my face distort, slowly at first, then those cramps are happening outside of my control. Jesus, are you crying already? Nah, dude, nah. Just push through it. I'm pushing very strong. Silence. I touch the strength rune on my right temple for support, 3 times. Deeply strengthened, I say, I was just thinking about when I was climbing your tree and you were climbing mine. A cigarette lights up from an ultra-annoyed in-drag. Do you actually even try? Oh God, I just arrived. I asked you to push through it. Silence. A continues coolly. Wow, looks like really everybody is there. Mood seems to be better than last time. She is right. I have to make an effort. I am focusing on my focus, on my disapproval of group rituals going on among the co-ops. I see bear hugs everywhere, people holding each other, cradling each other in those disenchanted arms, useless to this world and to the next, comforting each other by non-creative and pretty basic bodywork and a really uninspired organic warmth between lost and needy individuals. G seems relieved. He passes from group to group, smiling, patting, applauding, fist bumping, high-fucking-fiving. Pale H is clearing out chairs to create some kind of, oh no, I knew it, dance floor. The 2 bearded guys are already swaying softly, like those gnarly willow trees that have been cut down, pruned, and trimmed over and over again, regrowing a few swinging branches to test the effect of wind on them just before the next cut down, waiting for the music to start, swaying, smiling absently on a Tetra Pak of wine or 2. Pale H stands next to the mediator now, trying to connect his phone to the Bluetooth boombox. But there seems to be a problem. His phone just won't connect. Probably has a ton of BT and Wi-Fi devices on there that are cluttering up his settings. Before my magic eye, I take a peek at the long list featuring names like My Audi 2018 and Poppy Speaker Balcony. I feel you, Pale H, all these things you were connected to, that you shared for a while. Rental cars, Airbnb sound systems, co-working gear, Flixbus, Minesweeper, EasyJet lounges, and the compact hi-fi thing at your parents' place you installed 2 weeks before they died. An impressive history of devices, yet poof, here you are at a full stop. I see him trying to remove devices from the list while tugging on the arm of the mediator, who is eager to maintain his in-charge character, but is obviously challenged by Pale H, flipping more and more openly. He is by now wiggling around the mediator, fiddling with the stoic boombox that simply remains in its phallic silence. Pale H, his red eyes fixed on the kind of Christian design lamp suspended from the ceiling, retraces his gullet and grisly throat, as if groping for the things that used to go in and out that hose, while chanting fuck, 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 fuck up to the heavens. The mediator gently loosens the grip of Pale H's hand, straightens the crumpled sleeve of his jacket. Is he smirking? Is he actually blocking the connection? Is he withholding our playlist, Pale H's major achievement since I guess ever? Pale H, as if puking onto the linoleum, rests both hands on his bent knees, gasping, dry heaving, then snaps back up to massage his temples, his face covered with glimmering beads of sweat. At the same time, I see G approaching us in his bossy stride. He puts his phone back in his pocket, then releases his hand from his corduroy, sage-colored pant pocket to lift both his arms, his hand now on head level, held 2 footballs apart from another, framing A's head, greeting her with delighted twitches of his head, stuck in some joyful formula of, "Hey, look who's there," while still meters away from our alcoholic outpost. Just then Pale H goes down. Throwing his arms in the air, he is on his knees. G has almost reached the table, widening his open arms for a meaningful former lover embrace with A. It's all slow motion now, as slow as that mist of gin is descending down the deepest levels of that winding staircase to see if there's still somebody else to wake down there. It turns out there is. For the first time in an hour, I risk to put my glass down and step in between G and A. I hold up my hands in a protective shield, but leaving a triangle of thumbs and index finger open to throw my gaze through. I throw it right through G's annoyed, groomed, goatee face, through his former co-op brain, his app-sized goodness, his initially parent-pleasing schemes of competition, and through the T-bone steak deals and sage-colored pants that follow. My gaze travels on. I see myself laughing, parking a truck against a trash can. I see A and the white crystal in there too, but I have to push onwards. I pass cage after cage after cage after cage towards Pale H, who is, I feel it, dying. There he is, crumbled, curled up on the linoleum, a balding fetus, high up from my mountain, and just in time, just before his heart would have given out, I murmur, "It's working, it's connected. Don't die." It must have been the nagging, unleashed bass line that then explodes into a sword fight of dry, aggressive beats and the snarling lyrics of the song Breeze by The Prodigy. A bold first choice on Pale H's finally unlocked playlist that made A, who knows why, grab my hand and drag me to the dance floor. Starting almost as a joke, we throw our hands up and down and up again. But then it changes and it is for real. It is as if, sorry, but I have to say it like this, as if we were free. And all the runes around my head light up and start glowing. It's beautiful. G catches up, dancing too, laughing, smiling at me even, like openly. And as a joke, he forms a gun with middle and index finger to point it at me, then into his mouth, pulling an imagined trigger. Is he advising me to kill myself to my favorite lines of this beautiful song? Psychosomatic addict insane. I laugh like openly. And there comes Pale H, back from the dead, screaming, 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 hugging everyone ecstatically before forcing G to piggyback him. Now he is riding G, who makes weird barking sounds to it, and Pale H unties his man bun, chokes him with his left arm while pointing his index finger upwards, straight towards the heavens in a humble gesture of gratitude and understanding that his life has to change deeply from within, and that he will be facing this wholesome project of healing tomorrow morning first thing. But not now. For now he keeps on screaming for more, while blue veins showing all over his still very pale forehead, and we all scream with him for more gin and more of everything. I see the mediator working the light switch for extra dance mood, indicating that the relaxed part of the evening is there, smiling slightly patronizing, as in, those kids. Light off, cheers. Light on, mediator's smile entirely wiped from his face. Lights off, cheering, don't know why. Lights on, mediator's gone. Instead, goblin waiter works light switch cackling. Lights off, lights stay off. People not caring, people still dancing. Runes dimming down, like malfunctioning, like Signal failure due to greater powers close by, lights on, Green Day song playing, panic unfolding, panic attacking, G and A hugging. The light goes off again. Nothing happens. Lights on. Mediator next to me, smiling. Music is loud. Have to lip read as he says, "So shitface, tell me more about that cage of yours." Mediator lifts up metal bucket, cracking sounds, lights off. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I think we don't, we don't say anything. Eh? No. Yeah. Well, thank you then. No, it's the first part is such a drag. And it wasn't meant to be somehow, but yeah. Okay, but thanks for coming. Thank you.
Wow.